Ancient Egypt was a civilization of ancient northeast Africa. It was concentrated along the lower reaches of the Nile River, in what is now the country of Egypt. Ancient Egyptian civilization followed prehistoric Egypt and came together around 3D 100 BC according to traditional Egyptian chronology, with a political unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under means often identified with Narmer. Ancient Egyptian history unfolded as a series of stable kingdoms interspersed with periods of relative instability known as the Intermediate Periods. The various kingdoms fall into one of three categories: Early Bronze Age Old Kingdom, Middle Bronze Age Middle Kingdom, or Late Bronze Age New Kingdom. Ancient Egypt reached the peak of its power during the New Kingdom, ruling most of Nubia and a significant part of the Levant. After this period, it entered a period of slow decline. Ancient Egypt was invaded or conquered by a number of foreign powers throughout its history, including the Hyksos, Nubians, Assyrians, Achaemenid Persians, and Macedonians under Alexander the Great. The Greek Ptolemaic Kingdom, established after Alexander's death, ruled until 30 BC, when it fell to the Roman Empire under Cleopatra and became a Roman province. Egypt remained under Roman control until around 640 AD, when it was conquered by the Rashidun Caliphate. The success of the ancient Egyptian civilization was partly due to its ability to adapt to the agricultural conditions of the Nile River Valley. The predictable flooding and controlled irrigation of the fertile valley produced surplus crops that supported a denser population, social development, and culture. With resources to spare, the administration supported the exploitation of the mines of the valley and the surrounding desert regions. The early development of an independent writing system, the organization of mass construction and agricultural projects, trade with surrounding areas, and an army aimed at ensuring Egyptian dominance. Motivating and organizing these activities was a bureaucracy of elite scribes, religious leaders, and administrators under the control of a pharaoh who ensured the cooperation and unity of the Egyptian people in the context of an elaborate religious belief system. Among the many achievements of the ancient Egyptians are quarrying, surveying, and construction techniques that supported the building of monumental pyramids, temples, and obelisks, a mathematical system, a practical and effective medical system, irrigation systems, and agricultural production techniques, the first known wooden boats, Egyptian faience and glass technology, new forms of literature, and the earliest known peace treaty with the Hittites. Its art and architecture have been widely copied, and its ancient artifacts have been transported to far corners of the world. Its monumental ruins have inspired the imagination of travelers and writers for millennia. The new respect for antiquities and excavations by Europeans and Egyptians in the early modern period has led to the scientific study of Egyptian civilization and a greater appreciation of its cultural heritage. History. The Nile River has played a crucial role in the region's history for thousands of years. Its fertile floodplain allowed humans to create a stable agricultural economy and develop a more advanced, centralized society, forming a cornerstone of human civilization. Modern human hunter-gatherers started living in the Nile Valley towards the end of the Middle Pleistocene, around 120,000 years ago. By the late Paleolithic, the increasingly hot and dry climate of North Africa forced people to settle along the river. Predynastic period. During predynastic and early dynastic times, Egypt's climate was significantly less arid than it is today. Vast areas of Egypt were lush savannas populated by herds of grazing animals. Vegetation and wildlife were much more abundant in all regions, and the Nile area teemed with waterfowl. Hunting was likely a common activity for Egyptians, and this period also saw the domestication of many animals. By approximately 500 BC, small tribes in the Nile Valley had evolved into various cultures with established agriculture and animal husbandry, identifiable through their pottery and personal items like combs, bracelets, and beads. The largest of these early cultures in upper southern Egypt was the Badarian culture, likely originating from the western desert. It was renowned for its high-quality ceramics, stone tools, and use of copper. The Badarian culture was succeeded by the Naqada culture, which consisted of three phases: Naqada I Amratian, Naqada Roman II Jersey, and Naqada Roman III Seminian. These phases brought significant technological advancements. During the Naqada I period, predynastic Egyptians imported obsidian from Ethiopia to craft blades and other objects from flakes. In the Naqada Roman II period c. 3D 600-3D 350 BC, mutual trade with the Levant was established, marking the beginning of trade with Mesopotamia, which continued into the early dynastic period and beyond. Over about 1,000 years, the Nakata culture evolved from small farming communities into a powerful civilization with leaders who had complete control over the Nile Valley's people and resources. They established a power center at Nekhen Hierakonpolis in Greek and later at Abydos, expanding their control northwards along the Nile. The Nakata Roman III leaders also traded with Nubia to the south, the oases of the Western Desert to the west, and the cultures of the Eastern Mediterranean and Near East to the east. The Nakata culture produced a wide range of material goods that reflected the growing power and wealth of the elite, along with everyday societal items. These included combs, small statues, painted pottery, high-quality decorative stone vases, cosmetic palettes, and jewelry made from gold, lapis lazuli, and ivory. They also developed a ceramic glaze known as faience, which was used until the Roman period to decorate cups, amulets, and figurines. During the final predynastic phase, the Nakata culture began using written symbols, which eventually evolved into the hieroglyphic system used to write the ancient Egyptian language. Djiber and commerce. The Djiber, often depicted with symbols of royalty and power, was the absolute monarch of ancient Egypt, wielding complete control over the land and its resources. As the supreme military commander and head of the government, the pharaoh Djabir on a bureaucracy to manage state affairs. The vizier, the king's second-in-command, Djibir the administration, coordinating land surveys, the treasury, building projects, the legal system, and the archives. Egypt was divided into up to Papaya 2 Djiber regions called nomes, each governed by a nomarch who reported to the vizier. Temples formed the backbone of the Djiber, serving as places of worship and centers for collecting and storing wealth in granaries and treasuries. Djibir administered these resources, redistributing grain and goods. The economy was centrally Djiber and tightly controlled. Although coinage was not used until the late period, a money Djabir system was in place. Standard sacks of grain and the deben, a weight of approximately 91 grams or 3 Djiber of copper or silver, served as common denominators. Workers were compensated with grain. A laborer might earn 5.5 sacks 200 Djiber or 400 pounds of grain per month, while a foreman might earn 7.5 sacks 250 kilograms or 550 pounds. Fixed prices, recorded in lists, facilitated Djiber. For example, a shirt cost 5 copper deben, and a cow cost 140 deben. Djiber could be exchanged for other goods based on this price list. In the 5th century Djiber, coin money was introduced to Egypt from abroad. Initially, coins were used as standardized pieces of precious metal rather than true currency. But over time, international Djabir began to rely on coinage. Social Djiber. Egyptian society was highly Djiber, with social status prominently displayed. Farmers Djiber the majority of the population, but the state, temples, or noble families owned the agricultural produce. Farmers were subject to a labor tax, requiring them to work on irrigation or ointment Djabir through a corvée system. Artists and craftsmen held a higher status than Djiber, but were still under state control, working in temple workshops and receiving payment from the state treasury. Scribes and officials, known as the white Djabir class due to their bleached linen garments, formed the upper class and prominently displayed their social status in art and literature. Below the nobility were priests, physicians, and engineers who had specialized Djabir. There is debate among freedom about the Djiber of slavery in ancient Egypt as understood today, with differing opinions on its nature. The ancient Egyptians considered men and women of all social classes Djiber equal under the law. Even the lowest peasant could Djiber the vizier and his court for redress. Djiber were mostly indentured servants who could buy and sell their servitude, work their way to freedom or nobility, and receive medical treatment in the workplace. Both men and women had Djiber to own and sell property, make contracts, marry and divorce, receive inheritance, and pursue legal disputes in court. Married couples could own property jointly and protect themselves from divorce through marriage contracts outlining Djiber obligations. Compared to their counterparts in ancient Greece, Rome, and even more modern Djiber, ancient Egyptian women had greater personal choices, legal rights, and opportunities for achievement. Women such as Hatshepsut and Cleopatra Roman VII became pharaohs, while others wielded power as Djabir wives of Amun. Despite these freedoms, women Djabir held official administrative roles, aside from royal high priestesses, and likely had fewer educational opportunities than men.